Hi, and welcome to Sound Off with System One. I am your host, Allie Hayes. System One is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life sciences, and government sectors. Founded more than 40 years ago, today System One operates in over 50 locations and at any given time has more than 9,000 active consultants on assignment working in the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have a great topic for you, but before we dive into that, I would love to go through some introductions, starting with our back end. We do have several members of our marketing team, making sure that this broadcast does run smoothly for us. And we do have Rich Weed, our director of marketing, monitoring the comments. So as you're joining in, please send us a comment. Let us know where you're joining from and what industry you work in. As I mentioned earlier, my name is actually Allie Moen. I believe I said Allie Hayes. So I'll dive right into my fun fact there, I guess. I did get married a couple weeks ago, so still adjusting to the new last name. But my very exciting fun fact is that I did recently get certified and went scuba diving for the first time last week. So that was very exciting. And since I kind of took a turn there, I am the engagement and events marketing manager at System One. Kind of mixing up my intro for us today. So Christina, I will send it to you for an intro, a fun fact, and then a hot job that you're recruiting for.
All right. So I'm Christina Cushing. I'm an engineering recruiter based out of the Edison, New Jersey office. I've been with System One for about 6 years now. And my random fact is that I did, however, have interview anxiety in the past, and preparing and practicing has helped me to, kind of get over that and be more confident while I'm public speaking or in meetings and, in the future interviews. The hot job that I would like to discuss is senior project engineer, Springfield, New Jersey. This position, they're looking for someone that has 1 to 3 years of related project and process engineering with industrial processing machines. Bachelor's degree in either chemical or mechanical engineering is required. They would like somebody that has experience with capital equipment supplier or engineering company. That's preferred, it's not required for that role. And a big plus for this is AutoCAD or system validation experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Christina. All of that job information is at the bottom of the screen and is being dropped in the comments. So please take some time to search Christina's job using that job ID at jobs.system1.com. And now we will head over to you, Maggie.
Hi, good afternoon. Maggie Marroquin, Director of Accounting and Finance Services here in Houston, focused on placing accounting and finance folks as well as HR and administrative. I too have been with the company almost 6 years in February, so happy to be here. Fun fact, my family is all about Halloween, and we tend to dress up as a theme. This year, my daughter, she's almost 9. She always picks kind of the main character, and then we get the scraps and try to figure out what to build out from that. So she was Baby Yoda. My husband was the Mandalorian, and I was Princess Leia, of course. And then we have a Yorkie, and that was this little Ewok. So Halloween is fun always at our house. So there's my little fun fact there. The job that I want to talk to you guys about, it's a staff accountant role for one of our clients downtown Houston. They're one of my favorite clients. They're in the oil and gas space. They do client accounting for royalty folks. A lot of their customers are kind of in the Midland, Odessa area. Looking for somebody that's, got that consultative approach, super personable, and can kind of serve as the right hand to one of the assistant controllers. Revenue recognition, revenue reporting, that'd be great. But really a degreed accountant with strong oil and gas experience is what they're looking for. And like a lot of opportunities, personality is huge, just as big as skill set. They're a close-knit group. And really want to make sure this is a great addition to the team. So would love to get you in front of that client, talk to you more about that role. Definitely feel free to apply directly.
Awesome. Thanks, Maggie. That job information, again, is at the bottom of the screen and in the comment section. So check that out at jobs.system1.com. situational.com. And now let's head over to you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Tony Webster. I'm a business development manager down here in Tampa, Florida. Been with System One a little over 3 years, and my focus is engineering and skilled trades recruiting. Fun fact, I have never left the United States of America, and actually up until a year or two ago, I have never been west of the Mississippi, so not a big traveler. Maybe if I hit that $1.5 billion Powerball, I'll start traveling around the world. But until then, we'll hold off. But so the hot job I wanted to talk to you about, we have an electrical engineering role open out of Lanham, Maryland, which is Washington, D.C. area. Basically, what they're looking for is somebody that has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, has about 3 years experience working in a manufacturing environment, maybe has been exposed to a lab environment, utilize those type of tools, maybe even has some exposure to working on various equipment out in the field, and then building and designing it in-house. So that's the hot job we have. It's actually with a company that does traffic control and traffic law enforcement equipment. So, yes, it does hand out tickets, but it also goes on buses, and they have different technology that protects people as well. So
That's so cool. Very cool. Thanks so much, Tony. So again, all of those job opportunities will be in the comment section for you to take a look at. You can easily apply to those and all of our other opportunities on our career portal at jobs.system1.com. And now it is time to dive into our discussion for today. We are going to be talking with you about how to best answer behavioral, situational, and technical questions. So when you're in a job interview, you're going to be asked a variety of questions. Some could tie directly to your employment history, your ability to work on a team, or your leadership skills. But you'll also be asked different behavioral, situational, and technical questions. So the best way to prepare for these is to think about what the basic questions might be and give yourself a good answer to have in your back pocket ready to go. And I'm so happy we have our expert panel here. We're going to be sharing a lot of great advice on how to best prepare for those questions. So Christina, I'll start with you. If you could start us off and kind of give us an idea as to what the STAR method is that you can use to answer these questions.
Sure. So typically, the STAR method will be used for any sort of behavioral or situational interview questions. To answer the behavioral or situational questions, it's kind of a guide to keep you on track as you're answering those questions. So the STAR method is basically, to break it down, is situation, task, action, and results. And situation is more of like setting the stage. So this is where you give a brief overview of what the situation was, the challenge was, what kind of problem you were facing. That section, I would probably say to go over very briefly. It's more, they want to hear more of the details about the action and how you were resolving it, basically. So next up is task. That is where you kind of go into a little bit more details on and explain the specific actions that you took. What steps did you take to, try to resolve this? What did you use to resolve that? And then, of course, action is probably the area that you go into most detail about, because you want to give them all of those details about, what actions that you took, not just your team, but you specifically. And results is the R, and that is basically the outcome. So the best method is to try to quantify your results. Show what results were. Let me backtrack a little bit. Sorry. Basically, make sure that you're realizing like what the outcomes were. If you can give any sort of numbers, if there was like an increase in something, if there was growth that was shown afterwards, was there a lesson that was learned? How did you use this in the future? How can you implement this into your team and such? So that's basically the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that information. I think it's great. It's easy to have an acronym to just be able to remember those steps. So even if you happen to get a little stuck while you're answering a question, just think back to those and make sure you cover all those different points. And one thing I think is important to remember as well is while you're working through those 4 points is to remember to talk about yourself and what you did. And if you completed a project or worked on a team, where you're working more on a large scale basis, you really want to focus and hone in on what you actually did in that project. So thank you so much for sharing that. Maggie, I'd love to head over to you. If you could give us some insight into how to best answer behavioral questions and why they're important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and to back it up a little bit, I mean, anytime you get in front of a potential hiring manager, try to remember it's a conversation. Try to relax, build rapport quickly, find that common ground, break the ice, and that will kind of help you ease a little bit, right? Won't be as nervous. And skill sets often get you the job, but personality piece is so big in any kind of role. It will often help you keep the job. So be yourself, be honest. The behavioral piece, like you said, it's very much it's about you. Your potential new employer wants to know what you did, not necessarily what the team did. So it's me, it's my. I mean, definitely take ownership of that. And STAR is great: situation, task, action, result. It really provides that simple framework to really help you tell and build a really good story, because that's what you're doing. When you're interviewing, you're telling a story of who you are, where you started, where you're at, and where you're going. So, definitely keep that in mind. It helps a potential hiring manager really gauge problem solving, critical thinking, customer service, and just your overall kind of communication skills in general. So, one of those, like a behavioral, and there's a bajillion examples out there, but one of them I really like, and it's a great opportunity for you to highlight some of your experience, is when somebody says, tell me about a time where you went above and beyond the call of duty. Like, what was the situation, what happened, and what did you do? And I think oftentimes we try to, shoot for the moon and overthink it, right? And trying to draw this really elaborate story or experience that we had. And if we have those, great. But if you don't, that's okay. You may not think it's noteworthy when it truly is. A potential employer wants to know who you are on a consistent, regular basis, and it could be something as simple as, that's a great question. We had, this big meeting coming up, and my team was tasked with reporting and providing this big presentation to these executives that were coming into town. And the person tasked with all of the reporting piece got sick 2 days before the presentation, and completely unavailable, had the flu, not doing good. And somebody needed to kind of step in and fill that gap. And so I know Excel, I know Access. I pulled those reports really quickly, stayed late, did whatever. We delivered the presentation without fail. It was beautiful, and we got lots of accolades on how well we did there. My boss was super impressed and thanked me for the commitment and dedication. Right, to me, that's what any good team player would do, right? But that's what they're looking for is, if we're in a bind, how are you going to step up? And they want to specific examples of kind of how you've done that in the past. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. And then Tony, we'll bring it over to you. If you could talk to us a little bit about answering those technical questions that people get in interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again. So there's a couple different ways you can go about, answering a question regarding the technology and your expertise and experience utilizing various technologies, whether that be some sort of program. Maybe it's a CRM if you're in a sales role, or in our industry, it's an ATS, an applicant tracking system. If they ask you about a specific technology within that realm, your immediate answer is yes, and then you can explain your experience, how many years, what type of expertise you have within that program. Some people are a master at Excel, or maybe they've had a little exposure to it, and just reflecting on your experience and explaining that to the hiring manager. Another way to go about answering that question is if you haven't utilized that exact, CRM or ATS or program, but you've used one similar, And this kind of comes, with being prepared for the interview. But reference, hey, this is the experience I have with this specific software. It's similar to this other one, but not quite the technology you're looking for. And being able to reference the similarities and the differences in your experience in that field and that specific technology is great. And then, of course, the last part would be no. I don't have any experience with that certain technology, but your openness to learn is kind of something you want to reflect on as well, and eagerness is to learn that technology and further your career on that standpoint. So that's a couple different ways you can go about handling those technology questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I think going into an interview knowing when you have a technical question, you can answer it one of three ways. So you're kind of stuck with those three options. And like you said, it's yes, I have used it. No, I haven't, but I've used something similar. Or no, I haven't, but I'm willing to learn and I'm excited to learn.
Exactly.
You'll be ready to go to answer those questions. So Christine, I'd love to bring it back around to you to share any additional insights you have into answering some different interview questions.
Yeah, I think I think it's really important to have those go-to stories, scenarios, successes, any of the achievements that you have that you can bring up in any one of these type, of interview questions. So if you already have that kind of prepared, you're able to apply it to any of the different, scenarios, whether it be, like a past situation that you had or a hypothetical situation, or more, if you get more technical with it. So having that already kind of like planned and prepared, it'll make it more natural. It'll make it more of a genuine conversation, as Maggie was saying, not so much, where you're put on the spot and you have to like kind of like backtrack a little bit. You definitely want to be your own self, because if you get that job, they're going to be seeing what you could bring to the table. And it's not something that you could say, sit behind an interview and just say. They're going to want to see you actually take action. So yeah, I would say, having those like real life scenarios, stories, successes, all that on hand is definitely key to, answering any one of these questions.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think you said it, be yourself, have your real life stories and scenarios. Because the interview, it's all about you, and you have to be honest and be able to talk about what you've done and what you can bring to the table. And you should be able to easily answer some interview questions because, again, it's all about you. So Maggie, any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think we can all agree post-pandemic, dare I say that, the landscape has definitely changed both for employers and for job seekers, right? And I think a lot of the common conversation or hot topic, if you will, is around salary. We're coming out of the year of the Great Resignation. A lot of people were happy in their roles; they weren't moving, but if they could make 20 grand more and do the same job or less of a job, why wouldn't they, right? So as a job seeker, I encourage you to be comfortable having a conversation around salary. Before you go to that interview, you should definitely have some kind of idea, target comp for this role. Run the comparables. There's great search engines to do online, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, are just a few, to see what your type of role is offering, or in your market, in your industry, in your location. To know your worth, do your research, and then also don't get hung up on a specific number. It's always better to provide a range, and then consider the whole package, not just the dollar amount, but what does my commute look like? What is the work-life balance? How many hours am I going to be putting in? Is this a hybrid schedule? Is it fully remote? So consider the whole package. But employers are asking, what's your number? Where are you at? So be prepared to talk about that. Let them bring it up, right? You always want them to bring that up instead of you, but be prepared to talk about it in case it comes up. And then I always encourage candidates to, that interviewing process, like you said, it's about them getting to know you. You're interviewing them the same time that they're interviewing you to make sure that this is the right spot for you to be kind of long term. And so, make sure that, you take advantage of that opportunity, take advantage of that FaceTime, and ask them in that moment, as you guys are wrapping up, is there anything I can clarify, regarding my experience? Maybe they have a note and some, some chicken scratch on the side about clarify this. That's the opportunity for you to clarify in person what wasn't clear previously. And then close to next steps, right? Like, when can I expect to hear? When are you guys are hoping to make a decision? What do next steps look like? Ask what your competition looks like. Who are they comparing you against? What do those individuals bring to the table that you don't have? I always like to know, I'm not a patient person. I always like to know where I stand as I'm leaving, to better gauge, like, that went really good. I can definitely expect a call back, or that was not so great. But at least I like leaving a meeting knowing roundabout where I am. That's a great way to do it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I head over to you, Tony, to kind of wrap up some thoughts, Christina, we did have a question in our comments from Michelle Mullally, who has tuned in to Sound Off today. She wanted to know from you, if kind of talking through real life scenarios in the interview, if that would be similar to having factual scenarios in your cover letter summary. So if you have some thoughts on that for Michelle, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think having those go-to scenarios and successes and all of that you would bring up during an interview, having some of those highlighted in your cover letter, that would definitely be appropriate. I think that's if that's the first thing that they see, and then they are reading your resume, and then you have the opportunity to really go into more detail, using the STAR method of, being able to really dive into it a little bit further during the interview. I think bringing it up in a cover letter, any of those types of things would definitely be appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Tony, we'll bring it back to you with any thoughts on that, or just in general about answering the questions in interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with interviewing and really anything, I like to keep it simple. And, preparation is key. Take some time to reflect on your experience, understand your background. They want to meet with you for a reason. And that preparation leads to confidence. Don't be afraid to, share some experiences and share some achievements that you've had, whether that's, whether you saved your company a certain amount of dollars, or, cost efficiency. You were a high producer. Reflect on those numbers, share that, be proud of it. Leadership, different things like that. They want to talk to you for a reason. Make sure you're prepared and confident going into it. And that's pretty much all I have.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Ultimately, when it comes to preparing for these questions, practice does make perfect. So take some time, practice some answers to questions you feel might come up in the interview, and you'll be ready to walk into that interview confident. So unfortunately for us, our time is up. I do want to thank all of you on our expert panel for joining us and sharing a lot of great insight into how to answer these questions for our viewers out there. So please join us next week, 2 p.m. next Thursday, for another Sound Off with System 1. And please remember to connect with everyone on our expert panel here on LinkedIn. Give System 1 a follow as well, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we share different resume and interviewing tips, leadership insights, and success stories. So thanks so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.